All right, good afternoon or evening, everyone. Welcome to Sunday Trader Talk Radio, and this is Alexis here and hosting today. All right, so a lot of exciting stuff has been happening last week, and we are really happy to have the first up for today's lineup. We'll be having Chloe up first, and then after that, we'll be having Ash, Lloyd, and myself doing a little bit of what to look out for next week. So without further ado, I think I see Chloe in the room. So Chloe, over to you.
Hi, Alexis. Hi, everyone. How are you?
Hi.
We've all recovered from COVID over here, so I'm back in business.
Yay, awesome.
All right, let me grab the screen, and I've just got a few things on my watch list for this week. I mean, I won't go through my whole watch list, but there are a couple of things that I'm specifically looking out for. So I'm going to start off with a couple of currency pairs. Dollar CAD. Now, dollar CAD, if we look at the weekly time frame, you can see pretty clearly that it's in a trading range currently. So I've got the upper and lower levels marked in here. It's the horizontal levels aren't exact. Price has been up to these levels, but just as a guide, this is the range that I'm working within at the moment. But the thing that interests me on CAD is the fact that the price has not yet, or until now, had not tested the monthly pivot for this month. And price over the last few days has come all the way up to the monthly pivot and is now testing that monthly pivot. So that, in addition to the fact that overall the flow of this market is downwards at the moment, I am looking at dollar CAD to the downside. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be on the daily time frame. So I'm bearish, and as long as price stays beneath the monthly pivot, then I will continue to be bearish. But not only will I be looking at this on the daily time frame for a setup as price is bouncing from the monthly pivot, but I'm also going to go down to lower time frames just to see how price is reacting around here. And if I start to see a downtrend forming on any of the lower time frames, whether that be on the 4-hourly or whether that be on the 15-minute time frame, as you can see here, starting to see a downtrend with these lower highs and lower lows. So then I will be looking to take short trades on any of the lower time frames as well. So that's the first thing that I'm keeping a close eye on. The other thing, I mean, I've been keeping an eye on the dollar yen for quite some time, but it is still looking strong. So by strong, I mean the US dollar strong against the weak Japanese yen. Now I'm bearish the Japanese yen fundamentally. When I say bearish, I mean the chart would be bullish, but Japanese yen itself, I have a fundamental bias that is going to in the short term at least. So I don't have a daily trade here, but again, this is something that I am going to continue looking for long opportunities on the lower time frames. And the 4-hourly time frame is still trending up. The hourly time frame for now is still trending up. I'm just going to start to reduce my risk down because this trend has now been going on for quite some time. And while prices around this previous high over here, if I go to the monthly time frame, this is testing an almost, 7-year high, something like that, from all the way back in 2015. So that is significant. This previous high over here, that is significant. We can go back a little bit further and see that is actually a horizontal level here of resistance. So prices at that level, what it means is I'm going to be cautious, but if that level does break to the upside, then there could be even more room for long trades. So I'm very, very keen to keep trading long, reducing my risk, keep scaling out, taking profits. But if price does start to break any higher, especially if it makes a new high above this point, then I definitely want to be making the most of that, both on the daily time frame if an opportunity arises and on the lower time frames. Euro Swiss is something that I'm also looking at simply because price is cycling to the downside. I've got lower highs, lower lows, and of course we're close to the monthly pivot here. So I'm bearish on Euro Swiss on the daily time frame and on the intraday time frames if this kind of level of support that's been forming over the last couple of days breaks. The last thing that I wanted to look at really was gold. Just to say that I'm bullish on gold. You know, it keeps ranging and then breaking out. So on the daily time frame here, we do have a range. We've got these lower highs and higher lows, but it looks to me like it's breaking out to the long side. I'm not trading that on the daily, but I am looking for intraday opportunities long on gold. So those are my top 4, I suppose, on my watch list for today and for this week, in fact.
All right, sounds awesome, Chloe.
Back over to you, Alexis.
All right, thank you. Okay,
all right.
And that's Chloe.
I'm gonna rush off because I've left my little boy in front of some YouTube videos, and I don't know how much longer he'll stay quiet for.
All right, good luck with that then.
See you.
All right, see you. All right. Okay, so that was Chloe with the technical analysis, and now we're going to do a little bit of fundamental stuff, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's been happening over on the US side. All right, so I'm just going to share my screen, and we'll take a look at, let's see. Okay, there are a couple of interesting. Okay, first up, we have quite a couple of stuff that's been happening in the world. Before I go to this headlines, okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the US dollar. So there's everything ever since the war, right? There are a lot of talks about whether the US dollar status as the leading global reserve is still in place. So currently, the US dollar still makes up a majority of foreign exchange reserves, and it does kind of dominate trade invoicing. So US treasuries are traditionally a very safe asset of choice for global markets because the country's institutions are, people still do trust, the US's institutions in that sense, But if threats to the dollar do emerge, they are unlikely to come from outside central banks, right? So I don't think the major central banks will want to diversify a lot of their reserves away from the US dollars, maybe some, because technology has been making it possible for direct transfers between smaller currencies. So in that kind of way, it kind of removed the US dollar to act as a gatekeeper. But other than the slight diversification, the swap lines between central banks and the Fed, do make the US still, if the need arises, it is a currency for a very smooth flight to safety, right? So a bigger threat a lot of currencies is feeling now that, is the brunt of the Western sanctions that has been happening in Russia. They might look to avoid transacting in and out of the US dollar. So there are a bunch of currencies that don't quite trust the US dollar in the same way as, the other probably half of the world. And of course, the US has recently shown a very strong willingness to use the status of the dollar as an economic weapon, right? The most direct alternative, would then come with, people would be thinking, should we route the funds through China? So Beijing's digital currency program, it's kind of really progressing really fast. And it might be possible to shut out the dollar markets, but it is still kind of questionable of whether China would so-called take over as the currency of choice, because it is still unwilling to loosen its control over offshore renminbi trading, right? So that is quite a big barrier, to actually compete head-to-head with the US dollar. However, the US cannot afford to be complacent. So the Fed has been a bit slow to pick up on the innovations in the digital currency space, but this could prove a little bit costly, as other countries like China, and China, Russia, Japan are looking to gain a first mover advantage, right? So control over the global currency reserve is pretty sought after, but currently there is a steady demand for US dollars, just because, there is no clear game changer in the market yet. right? So at present, there are no ready currencies that can directly compete with the foundation that the US dollar has made. But in the meantime, we should keep an eye open and we'll see where it goes. So on the back of that, we're talking about the US, moving forward, increasing interest rates, quite aggressively to combat its inflation. So I will still be looking for more US dollar upside. It's a question of now finding the entries on the retracement. On the opposite of the ocean, we have the Euros, the French election coming up. So Le Pen is Macron's competitor, and she has been kind of moving up in the poll. So she's catching up with Macron, and she does have. So this is the interest. This is the sentence that I'm actually going to focus on. Le Pen's election manifesto no longer includes dropping the euro as it did back in 2017, but she still remains skeptical about free trade and open borders. So this is kind of like a hint. If Le Pen does win the election over Macron, I think the euro will kind of stay low, because she is a little bit more nationalistic. She don't really want to open the borders in that sense. But if Macron can take over, I would expect a little bit more upside to the euro. So this will take time to play out, which means I think for the next week or so, until the elections results comes out a bit clearer, I think the euro is going to go sideways for a bit until there is a steady, clear sign on the euro front. All right. On that front, I think what I will be looking at next week is the Aussie pairs. The Aussie pairs has been showing very strong statistical numbers. So if we look at tradingeconomics.com, the Aussie has a 4% jobless rate, 3.5% inflation rate. So what the Aussie has shown is that without increasing interest rates, it has kind of still decent inflation numbers. It still is keeping its jobless rate under control. So it hasn't quite used its weapon, or I won't say weapon, but its tool of interest rate yet, right? It hasn't really needed to up its interest rate yet, because it is still kind of controlling the play. So this is what, a part of it, that's what's keeping the Aussie quite strong or valuable in that sense. But again, a lot of the Aussie pairs, if we scroll through, you can see they're a little bit overextended. So I would still look to long the Aussie, but of course, being a little bit cautious and finding those retracements to the entries. All right. So I'm a bit more bullish the Aussie. I'm bullish slightly bullish the US. I'm a bit more neutral on the euro, and I think the last pair I will be looking at is a bit of softness in the pound. So the pound, the statistics aren't really good, but it has been going sideways for a couple of the currency pairs. So what I'm looking for is those retracement legs to short the pound. So I think my focus next week will be on the pound Aussie and maybe the pound dollar, looking for the short side. So hopefully that kind of turns up for me next week. Pound Aussie has been going sideways for a bit. We'll see whether it gives us a bit of leg way. But this is the hourly time frame. So let me go to the pound Aussie. Yeah, pound Aussie has retraced a bit last week, in fact. So I'm looking for a little bit more short side next week. Hopefully that comes back to me. Pound dollar has kind of hit a support level. So I will be looking for a bit more retracement before looking for a bit more short side. So those are the two pairs for me. And I will pass over to Lloyd, who I think will go through the indexes with us. Over to you, Lloyd.
All right, thank you, Alexis. Let me grab your screen. Okay. Right, so over at the indices, it actually isn't really looking fantastic for me, and I'll point out the reason why in a short while. So if you look at the dollar index, price has actually reached a really, really nice horizontal level, which is at really $100. Yeah, so I'm on a weekly chart, and you can look at this level, price usually, even if it breaks in the past, it'll get whacked back down pretty fast. Yeah, so I'm not really keen on trading at this level. As you can, all the 2018, 2017, 2020, you can see that this is really a pretty nasty place to trade. Yeah, so just looking at the past price behavior, I would rather be actually waiting for a price to make a false break, come down, and then this is where I would prefer to trade. Now, in saying that, I'm at a dilemma. So this is actually at a stage where I might utilize one of the greatest trading power that I ever acquired. So now, Look at the dollar index, and then we look at the yen index. You can see that price plummeted again back to $80. This is where price also bounced off in the past. Not exactly a good place to trade, but a good place in anticipation of reversal might possibly be in play. Like in Swiss, long-term wise, you can see that price is trending down, horizontal level. So really, I'm waiting for price to actually make this play. Yeah, so I'm really bearish on the Swiss. Yeah, but this is price is really at a an area for us to actually have a taking a wait and see approach. Yeah, we shouldn't really be jumping in that fast at the moment. Pound, very nice break and retest. It has done so in the past 2 weeks, and now I will have no problem suspecting that price will actually be continuing on its downward trajectory. As to where you will land on, I don't know, but definitely bearish about it. Kiwi, again, you can see that, let me remove this rectangle, is no longer in play. Long-term wise, price is actually trending downwards. Very nice rejection of its $70. So again, no problem saying that even the Kiwi is also trending downwards. Aussie, very nice rejection of this level with a very huge engulfing test bar. One of my favorite price action to trade. No problem saying that Aussie probably also going to head downwards. So now you can start to see the similar story. I don't really have anything that's particularly bullish, bearish, lots of them. Euro currency, again, downtrend, very classic break and retest. Price is heading downwards as to where it went, probably all the way to $100. Might be a possible play. It's not as if price actually didn't go to this area in the past. It did, 102. And then the Canadian index, again, ranging situations. The range traders might actually want to pay attention to this. This has been rejected many times in the past, $80. Yeah, so I got a lot of actually pairs that says that I want to go down, and I only have one pair, I only have one index that says that I might probably inch a bit more upwards, but my strength is actually kind of fading. Yeah, so with that saying that I'm one of the greatest power that I might exercise in my trading career is probably just to wait, not really do anything. Yeah, so for those who might want to actually wedge a play, I think dollar cat is possibly something that we can actually look to trade on. You can see that price range for a bit, force break, retest. I'm waiting for a retest play so that I might actually jump in. But again, with this, I might also reduce my risk. Now, euro dollar price has really plunged down quite a fair bit already. Again, waiting for a break and retest, or I might actually just test my patience, waiting for price to actually break the 1.08 level before I might actually jump in. Now, there's one pair I might actually be trading a reversal instead, which is Aussie yen. So let's just recap a bit. So you can see that Aussie, potential huge rejection of this level. And let's look at the yen JXY index, potential reversal of the $80. That's what price has told us in the past. Yeah, so yen might probably actually go long, Aussie might actually plunge. So this is, and on the 4-hour time frame, it has actually imprinted a double top consolidation. So what I'm waiting for is really just price after it's consolidate, break down, some kind of retracement, giving me a lower high, and then I'll be happily shorting it. Yeah, so this might be in play, and I might, if it does really happen in this scenario, I'll be probably sitting in for quite a fair bit. Yeah, letting it actually play out its weaknesses. Yeah, so these are the 3 pairs that I'm looking for to trade this week. But against anything that's associated with dollar, I might just reduce my risk, and Aussie yen is the one that I'm looking after. All right, with that, thank you for joining me, and I'll be back to Alexis.
All right, thank you, Lloyd. Well, it does sound like the theme of this week is a little bit more patience. So we all seem to be waiting for a very similar story. It's either waiting for a retest or waiting for a rejection of some sorts. So with that note, do be a little bit cautious when entering the markets, especially on Monday. It is quite normal for during a period of conflict or during a period of uncertainty for forex prices, especially to start going a little bit more sideways as the markets try to figure out where to go next. So a strong focus on technicals would be actually beneficial, because on a fundamental sense of things, it does take time to play out. You need a medium to long-term view on that, and at this point in time, it looks like the technical traders will kind of have the edge over the fundamental traders at this point. So my guess, or my outlook is to kind of focus on a little bit more technicals, especially on the shorter time frames, to find that additional edge in entering and exiting the markets. All right, with that, I'll end off today's Sunday session. Thank you all for joining me, and we'll see you again next week.